Hi everybody, how y'all doing? Hope you're doing well. I know it's a bit unusual for me to do two videos, but I wanted to do this. Um, Partly for me and partly for somebody else. Um, Somebody I know who watches on a frequent basis. Um, I don't know, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how it is that what I'm trying to say without saying too much or anything. I just got done listening to an album that came out last year. Um, so many ways. It was kind of like listening, well, in many ways it was like listening to myself with what I've been through. And considering that this person and I have been through our own individual journeys, we'll put it that way, at the same time. Um, yeah, it's a little bit more poignant than really before. But in many ways, it is cathartic. It is very healing. And while I was doing that, I just was like, I need to sketch, something I normally don't do. And I just started, basically I wanted to work, I felt this need, really, to work on a logo. I think I got it the way I want it. And the tagline basically is growth through creativity. And in many ways it's about my logo and the tagline are about, release, letting go. And unfortunately I'm in a situation, I've been trying to do that. I've been trying to do the healing work. But of course, physically I get having the setbacks with being out there, which was a never-ending cycle. And at the same time, I'm trying spiritually and mentally do my healing work, but with the constant setbacks with physical, made it difficult. And I know in some ways I really wish that I could be in my own place with my own thoughts and so forth. I know it's not possible right now, fortunately, hopefully. Now, actually, starting tomorrow with that interview, it's going to happen. That's the mindset that I want to be in. Not that I need to be in, I want to be in. And it's really where my logo, it's what my logo is about. It isn't just about using the creative process to help organizations grow. It's also about my own growth. Taking that step back and allowing myself to go with the flow. And I'm really surprised at what came out, to be perfectly honest. It was kind of churning in my head. But I just kind of keep looking at the sketchbook over there, and I'm really surprised what came out. Very happy with what came out. And while I was sketching, got to the end of the album. It's kind of a short album. I think it's 8 songs, 7 or 8. Then Pandora started it up again. I had no intention. It started it up again, but it was a good thing it did, because there was a lot more healing. And I'll admit, I was thinking of my friend also during the time, and the fact that they have been, I couldn't help but think of the differences in our journeys. Yeah, their experiences, their trauma, and I'm talking physical trauma, much more severe, to the point where they technically they did die for a while, but they came back. They were brought back. And there was a reason for that. And it was a struggle, still is a struggle, for them to keep going. But it's interesting, that they had their incident happen right after I had gone through everything with the virus for those 3 weeks. I was just starting to come out of it when they had their incident happen. I couldn't help but think of the differences. But also the similarities. Especially when it comes to loved ones. And the fact that we both basically have daughters. And really, right now, the only one who really knows what I've been going through, she's gone through it with me the whole time, is my little one. In some ways, my friend that I'm with right now, Angie, she definitely understands with being a nurse, gone through it with people who've dealing with long COVID, dealing with people who've had COVID, or other ailments. People like myself also who've been also battling type 1 diabetes. In some ways, yeah, Rick also understands, but, of course, he likes to talk about Vegas a lot, asking questions or whatever, in some ways, and by no means am I knocking him down. It just, sometimes it can be a bit exhausting. It takes me back to, with cab driving and ride-sharing days where I was constantly bombarded with all those questions. And I just don't care to talk about it. Part of my healing isn't just what I have been through with long COVID and then being diagnosed diabetic and so forth. It's also everything I went through while I lived in Vegas. The traumas that I went through out there. Not just with the driving, but also with people who claim to be friends. And also people who were 3,000 miles away claim to be family. And unfortunately, in the end, not really having anybody around me who really truly understands. Except my little one. And I was thinking about my friend, because they fortunately have people who care. And I know their daughter is in the same boat as my little girl. Basically, especially with being really young and having to grow up really fast, which I can relate to. I had to do the same thing, only I was younger. I was 4 when my mom became a type 1 diabetic. And my little girl has also had to grow up pretty fast. And in many ways, I can't help but think of the similarities between my friend's daughter, and I realize that we're talking human versus animal. But to me, they're one and the same. They, especially when it comes in terms of that innocence. On the one hand, they both have to rely on us, adults, for their care, their well-being, their support, and so on and so forth, and their strength. And then, unfortunately, my friend and I, we have both had to rely on them for that well-being, care, strength, and support. I know that Britt keeps telling me that it's okay, you can rely on us, but I can't. I know it's part of the healing process, where I'm having to, because let's face it, particularly the last couple of years, it's like my strength has dwindled, and I haven't been able to rely on anybody but myself. I have had to be faced with basically people constantly yelling at me and making accusations. Well, I've been struggling. Not just, of course, struggling financially, but just struggling, just trying to live, doing everything I can to fight through it. And I feel like I've had to, I think I understand it, because basically throughout my whole life I've had to be the strong one. And now And all of a sudden, the strong one got thrown into the deep end, deepest end that she's ever had to be in, with basically trying to fight for her survival, fight for her life. And don't get me wrong, I've been in dangerous situations, I've had my life threatened, but I quickly accepted that. I've had guns pointed at me, people threatening my life and so forth. I've been in those situations. But I also accepted from the get-go what I was doing. I knew what I was getting myself into. But this is different. And I think I have had to accept the possibility that basically what happened with everybody is that they weren't, they just couldn't comprehend, they couldn't grasp the fact that I was needing physical help. And that the strong one actually needed help for a change. I have had, it's funny. Because basically my father and stepmother gave me an ultimatum that, basically, I don't even want to go down that road. But basically, ultimately, it was like, they helped me out for a couple weeks with rent, and then that was it. And everything that I've been trying to tell them with what's going on with me and so forth just keeps going out the window. Nobody wanting to listen. And even that last week when I had told them I'm leaving, my father still wasn't accepting it and still was trying to send me resources that I had told him were dead ends. There was one resource that I had found out about, and I called them, and I found out that, okay, that one has got a shorter waiting list, at least, with financial help with rent. It's only 2 months instead of 8 months or 2 years. But that's the problem. It was 2 months before you got assigned a social worker, and then you still had to go through the application process, which wasn't going to suffice. A couple days later, he sends me the same resource, and I told him what it was. He had DM'd me, and I told him, and he was just like, well, why didn't you put that in 2 months ago? Because I just found out about it on Monday. This is Wednesday. I haven't heard from either of them since. And I've been doing posts up on Facebook and so forth. And, we're, of course, friends up on Facebook. Not a word. Not a text message, not a DM or anything. And I've been here. Tomorrow will be 3 weeks. And it's just sad. But unfortunately, it's the way it's always been with my father. He's never been able to grasp reality. It's ultimately what really killed my parents' marriage, and it's what killed my relationship with him to begin with, and why I was fed up and had left and hadn't spoken to him in 5 years, and now here I am again. I don't care to talk to him. Basically, he did the same thing to me, is what he did to his own wife. Only I think it probably hurts more with being blood, you know. I just, and like I said, I just don't care to hear from him. I'm so tired of the negativity. I'm tired of the toxicity. And I think of my friend. I was actually thinking about something that happened. I think it was August. I was really down at that point. And they had taken a little vacation with their family, which I don't blame them. And in some ways, I feel bad about that. Not bad about them taking a vacation, just the things that happened between them and I. In some ways, I blame myself. Maybe I was putting a little bit... Our friendship grew as a result of our individual traumas because we were both going through it at the same time. And I kind of wonder if maybe I was putting a little bit too much expectation, I guess. Expecting too much understanding because I was really in a negative place at that point. Knew I was also being evicted. Didn't know what the hell I was going to do, especially since I was just, starting to come out of everything that happened with the wildfires, being able to breathe and so forth. And I was just trying to figure shit out, you know? And then in a way, they kind of went through the same thing about a month later. I know in some ways the friendship did fall apart. I, in some ways, needed to go on my own path. I basically walked away from everything. Walked away from doing these videos, social media, everything. And then, of course, everything happened with Christmas and New Year's and losing the storage unit the day before. Actually, that was the 30th, excuse me. And I knew what was coming next, too, with losing the car. In many ways, I didn't mind losing the car. It had issues. A lot happened. A lot has happened over the last 2 years. And yeah, I reached out to my friend to just say hi, bring him up to speed or whatever. What's been going on. But I couldn't help but think about him. I've been kind of thinking about him a lot here lately. Certain things have been coming out, popping up, and so forth. And, I don't know, just listening to that album. I won't say which one. It was like going back and listening to my own journey. Especially about the breathing. I know I have a lot of healing to do. At least I'm able to breathe. And in that respect, I don't mind taking these times to just relax and chill out, not worry about working out or, basically doing my yoga, going for walks or whatever, even though today is a beautiful day. It's absolutely gorgeous. Before I jumped up on here, I seen that it was like 66 or something. Yeah, I got the windows open. I'm like, I don't care. Her allergies were flaring up a little bit, but they seem to be straightening out too. And she was actually in the window looking out. She saw a squirrely squirrel. She was like, "Ooh, what's that? What's that? What is it?" Trying to figure out, what is that? Never seen one of those before. Yeah. So, but yeah. I'm very happy with this logo. Because it does point in the direction. It is the direction I want to go with my life. That starting over, that bliss, my last name, go in the direction of bliss for a change, instead of so much doom and gloom. I guess in some ways, I feel like that maybe, as far as everything that happened there at the end of maybe there was expectations on both sides. I don't know. That's why I really wanted to have a conversation. But it's okay. I get it. Sometimes people don't. I just feel good that I can have this outlet. I'm very happy I have my baby. She's been my strength. And I know I've been hers. It has been very, very good for both of us coming out here. Even though it's been a shock to both of our systems. Especially with the weather. And also with myself, with feeling like I've gone back in time. There's no pressure. That was my biggest fear. I went through a lot. Even before everything happened with the virus. I'm talking 5 years ago when I had to walk away from my apartment because my injuries from a car accident just kept flaring up, making it more and more difficult to be able to work. And I needed some stress taken off of me because of it. And unfortunately, the situation I wound up in, I was so worried coming out here that I was going to wind up in that same situation. It was all drugs and abuse. Not drugs on my part, but there was a lot of drugs being used in the house, and I was told that it had stopped. And then I found out otherwise. There was abuse, and unfortunately, and there was this desire to get me out of the house because I found out that I wasn't going to, basically, the man of the house found out I wasn't going to be part of his harem. Let's put it that way. Whether his girlfriend was there or not. I won't go into it. And he didn't like the fact that I was actually friends with her. And unfortunately, it was his house. But, and at the same time, well, on the one hand, you know, this is also during COVID. During the shutdowns, there was no work. And he kept yelling at me to basically go out and Uber 24/7, which is an impossibility. I mean, even from a legal standpoint, you can't do that. And I was working as much as I could. And giving as much as I could, but it wasn't enough. And at the same time, or yelling at me to go out and get a job when there's no jobs to be had. Everybody's laid off. It was rough. But he didn't want, again, somebody who didn't want to face reality, didn't want to see things. And all it boiled down to is he wanted me out, not just because he found out he couldn't sway me, but also I was being too much of a positive influence on her. And that's what it boiled down to. And sure enough, in the end, he won her over. Then I wound up pretty much in the same situation, more or less, with the next place I moved into. That's what I mean. Really, it's been the last 5 years. It's just been. And I was worried that I was coming out here and going to wind up in the same situation. I'm very grateful that it hasn't been that way, but I'm still nervous that it could wind up being that way. It's why I need to get a job. And I really need help as much as possible. Only now I don't even have a car or anything. Still have my Wacom tablet. I still have a ring. If need be, I could see about pawning them or something. It's just, yeah. I know tomorrow's going to work out well. I know it is. I'm going to have good news. I will hold off on doing the video until afterwards, mostly because of the time constraints in the morning. So, but yeah. Positive growth. Positive movement forward. That's what I want. That's what my logo is all about. So anyway, I thought I just wanted to come up here, do some talking, say I'm sorry. Clear the air about a lot of things. Yeah. So, anyway, I thank you all. I'll talk to you all tomorrow. If I don't, before then, who knows? I love you guys. I appreciate it. Take care.